Hey guys, it's Steph here. So it is September, almost October. I cannot believe how fast this gardening season has gone by, and it is just a really exciting time because it's fall and it's a great time for planting. And I've had some open spots in my yard back here that I've needed to put plants in the ground for some time now. And now that the weather is getting nice and cool, I mean, it's still about 85 degrees, which is beautiful. Today's a little bit cooler on the 75-degree side. I think next week it's going to be around 65 to 70. So perfect time for planting. I've already transplanted a few of my hydrangeas. They're recovering really well. One of my limelights, not so much though. But when I had dug up one of my limelights, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know this, but you can divide them. I could divide them into 3 different plants. I'm kind of changing the layout of my front flower bed, so I had to move it, but now it's going to be really happy where it is. Anyways, that's a side note. But today I'm going to be planting a lot of shade plants. This area right here is a full shade area. It gets hardly any sun. So I was so excited. I went to one of my favorite nurseries and they have the most unique shade plants. These ones are so beautiful because some of them are going to provide texture against another one that I'm planting right here that will provide a lot of color. You get some fall bloomers, you get some spring bloomers, and then you get some interest all gardening season. So let's take a look at them. I'm so excited to show you. And I was kind of laughing at myself because I'm like, if you really want to plan for a garden that gives you blooms all summer long, start in spring, which I do. I just don't stop. If you know me and you've been watching my videos, I just buy plants all summer long. I hit up nurseries all summer long, and then you can kind of see what flowers are blooming at different times. My husband even made a joke with me. He's like, yeah, you can even buy the ones that are blooming in the nursery every month, and then you'll have blooms endlessly in the garden. So okay, let's take a look at these plants. So right here is my big old walnut tree, my favorite tree ever. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you can see why this area gets a lot of shade. And earlier in the year, I killed this with some glyphosate, created a nice flower bed around here. So I wanted flower beds all along the fence. The reason why I'm doing them all along the fence is because it suits my lifestyle. We have a shop right there, so we got to be able to drive in and out right there. There's our garden, but my kids love to play volleyball. They love to play soccer, all different types of sports right here. So I got to keep it nice and open. And then right there on the garden area, I'm going to create some structure. I'm hoping next year, we'll see. I'm going to put a cute little picket fence in the front and do a lavender hedge because it gets full sun right there. My lavender hedge, I have it over on the other side of my yard and it gets a little bit too much shade. So that's going to be really pretty. And then my greenhouse is right there. So I'm going to create a nice little walkway into the garden. Anyway, so it's going to be really cute. Let's get back to this first one that I want to highlight. So look how beautiful this one. It kind of reminds me of a perennial type snapdragon. This starts to come out in late summer to fall, and it's called Chalone Hot Pink's Turtle. I don't see these very often, but look at the beautiful pink color that is going to provide right here. And it's a great naturalizer. It's actually kind of known to be in woodland settings, so I think this is going to be perfect. Right here, this area is getting a little bit more sun. As it gets later in the season, that tends to happen, but when it's midsummer, late summer, early spring, it's mostly shaded when all these leaves start to come out. But they do like to stay moist. If you live in the northern climates, your summers don't get as hot. They can handle full sun. Just make sure to water them enough. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the label real quick. This is the pink turtlehead hot lips. Right here, it gets about 24 to 30 inches tall, and you space it about 18 inches, but it is kind of a naturalizer, so I'm not putting that close together. Over time, they'll slowly grow and fill in. I just want there to be a huge mass right here in this area, so I bought 5 of them. What a fun pop of color for this time of year. Back here, I'm adding some Chantilly lace goat's beard. This is a smaller variety than some of those bigger ones. Beautiful. Look at all of that texture, and this will come out in the I'm pretty sure, I want to make 100% sure. Yeah, this comes out in the early summer to midsummer. So when this starts to kind of lose its color, it will still have that nice ferny foliage, and then this color will come out a little bit later. But I do think these textures are going to go beautiful together. They get pretty big. You want to space them about 40 inches apart. So I kind of just want them to wrap around this tree. I have a few astilbe. That's the milk and honey astilbe. I don't have a picture for that, but look it up. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a little bit taller variety, and it's a Chinese astilbe, which is a little bit more drought tolerant. So that's going to be perfect right here. But goat's beard is so awesome. It is one of those plants that you can put in the full shade. It will still bloom really abundantly. So I have 3 of those, and these don't really like to be transplanted, so I want to make sure I keep them in this spot. I measured everything out so I didn't have to move them, and I'm so excited to see those fill in. And I really like them with a bleeding heart. So bleeding heart goes dormant, but I have one right here. I'll provide that spring color, and then as that starts to fade, so I have 3 of those. I'll show you this bleeding heart right here. See, it's starting to go dormant, but there's 1, 2, another one right there, and then I'll have another one over there. and that will give me my early spring color. So with this goat's beard, it is a little bit more drought tolerant than this Stilby, but I'm gonna definitely water this a little bit more, make sure it stays nice and moist because that's what it likes, along with my Stilby, and also with this turtle heads. They definitely like to be moist too. Otherwise, these blooms won't last as long. They might dry out a little bit faster. It's walnut season. Look at all of those walnuts I'm gonna have to pick up out of here. They're nuts. They will start like crazy if I don't pick them up. So right here, we're really good friends with our neighbors. We come in and out, enjoy each other's yard all the time. So I'm gonna create a little brick pathway. I'm not sure, should I do a wood one, a brick one, a stone one? Okay, let's move on to the next shade plant. I always have a soccer ball. I did not have a soccer ball in this video earlier. Every time I try and do a video, there is a soccer ball in my flower bed. Let's get that out. Let's boot it out, huh? Okay. Having a love fascination right now with Japanese grass. Look at the way that just flows, and it has such beautiful variegation. I just wanted to show you a little up close shot right there. So I'm really excited to plant a mass of this. This is called, I am not even gonna say that first word. You can see it, macra. This is the areola variety. So this is a zone 6 through 9. So right here you can see that it gets about a foot tall. It is grown for its foliage. So I'm just gonna plant 5 of these right here. This variety is a little bit different. This is the all gold, so look how bright that one is. They didn't have 5 of the same one, so I just got a little mix and match. This one gets a little bit taller, about 24 inches. I'm hoping it gets that 24 inches, and this one's a little bit more cold hardy, zone 5. So I did learn with these Japanese grasses that they are slow to take off. The first year they might not do anything, but the second year they really start to grow. So you gotta be patient with them. So I think this grass, as it really starts to fill in, is gonna be a nice contrast to those goat's beard and those turtle heads. I have some layering going on. I know the lighting's kind of crappy right now. So I'm gonna have a layer of those grasses. I've got my 3 limetta hydrangeas that get about 3 feet tall and wide. That tricolor beech is a really slow growing tree, great for small spaces. That's gonna fill in about 10 years. And then right here, you see this empty spot. I'm gonna be moving some anemone that I have in the other side of my yard. I'll go show you those real quick. And I love anemone when it is just in large groups. Anemone will kind of naturalize, so I only have 5 plants right now, but over time it will definitely fill in this entire area. Anemone does like a little partial shade, and that's what this gets. So let's go take a look at the anemone. So here is the Lucky Charm anemone. This one's a little bit of a taller variety. I gotta show you the label real quick. It gets about 30 to 36 inches tall, but the stems alone, they sit on about a foot stem. So the foliage, I would say, gets about 2 feet tall. I think it's gonna be great for the front edge of that flower bed and just be a little bit more daintier to contrast with those grasses in my hydrangeas. I wanted to add that with the goat's beard, if it's in a more full sun area, it's gonna be a little bit shorter. With a lot of perennials, they do tend to get a little bit taller in the shade versus the sun. So I just wanted to add that. Hey, there's my cat. Always is joining me along everywhere. I got all of the anemone planted right here. It transplanted really well now that the weather's a little bit cooler. I'm just gonna kind of let them do their thing all around here. I just want them to wrap around this beautiful magnolia tree that gets beautiful pink blooms in the springtime. Okay, so I wanted to finish this video by just telling you what you need to do as far as winterizing these plants and some tips that are good things that I've learned. I researched these plants like crazy, even though I haven't planted them yet. So these turtle heads, like I said, they grow really slowly. They're rhizomes under the ground, so they'll spread slowly throughout here, but in the shade, they might get a little bit leggy and tall in this amount of shade. So to make them more full, you could pinch them down in mid-spring by about 1/3 to promote more outward growth and just to make it a little bit less floppy. We'll see what happens. I don't know. If you want to follow along on this and see how it blooms in the deep shade, make sure you subscribe because I will be updating all of these plants. And as far as winterizing them, I'm not really going to do anything with them in the winter. In the spring, if I do notice that they're getting a little bit floppy, I'll go ahead and pinch them back. Basically, which means you just take a stem and you pinch it down to like your next set of nodes or leaves right there. I think it's nodes, right? And then it'll make it a little bit shorter, more compact, and more full. And then with the goat's beard, I'm just gonna keep all the foliage in there during the winter time. And then in spring, all you do is cut them down to about 3 inches when that new growth, kind of before that new growth starts to emerge, and it's good for the soil. Let's walk over to the grass. So these grasses, they grow rhizomes underneath, and then I'm just gonna leave this grass here, and then in spring, I'll cut it back when that new growth starts to emerge. So pretty simple. And then the anemone, they do, when you get the first frost, their leaves tend to turn black. And so if you think that's unsightly, then you can cut them down in the fall. I'm just gonna leave mine until the spring. I just kind of like to keep the leafy growth on the soil over winter time. I think it's good nitrogen. If I want to get a head start, I can cut these down after our first frost when they become ugly, and then I can focus on something else in the spring. Okay, I hope you guys like this video. A few things I would just remind you is these turtle heads and the goat spirit and the stilby, they do not like to dry out. They're gonna perform their best if they stay nice and moist. But I'm really excited to see them mature. I'll get some spring color with my bleeding hearts, some midsummer with those goat's beard, and then later in the season, the anemone and the turtle heads are going to provide a lot of fall color. Like I said, this is my first year growing the turtle heads in deep shade. I know a lot of times they recommend putting them in part shade, and if you live in more mild climates, the northern areas, you can put them in the full sun area. Just make sure they don't dry out. I just love the turtle heads that look like snapdragons, but they're perennial. I hope you guys like this video. Consider subscribing, hit the like button, comment down below if you have any questions, and I will look forward and I hope to see you in my next videos. We'll talk to you later. Bye.